Hello, friends. Swami Kriyananda once shared a story with us of an interaction that he had with Yogananda. And in this case, Yogananda had been saying to him, to Swami, that in God all your desires must ultimately be fulfilled before we reach salvation, liberation. And Swami's response was to ask a question. He said, well, even a desire that I might have forgotten, say when I was a child, for an ice cream cone. And Swami was thinking, Yogananda would say, well, these little things, don't worry about it. But Yogananda surprised him by saying, oh yes, even a desire you might have forgotten from long ago, even a trivial desire like a desire for an ice cream cone. And so there's good news and bad news associated with this. The good news is that all our desires must ultimately be fulfilled. The bad news is that all our desires must ultimately be fulfilled. And what we come to realize is that there is a kind of frightening machinery to it. It's sort of like we've paid the money to go into the amusement park, but now we're obliged to take all the rides and experience every one of them, even the ones that we don't necessarily want to experience, but because they're sort of there, we kind of have to go through with it. It's almost as if you ever saw the movie Disney's Fantasia, there's a scene in Fantasia where the sorcerer's apprentice gets hold of the magic spell book and decides he's going to have some fun because one of his jobs is to mop the floor. And so he decides, well, if I can work the spell book correctly, then I can get the mop to mop the floor by itself. So he goes to the spell book and, delivers the appropriate spell, and the mop starts mopping the floor by itself. And pretty soon there's another mop, and there's buckets and water, and it's like it just keeps going. It's like it keeps multiplying. And this is a little bit what happens with desires. We have a desire, we strive for its fulfillment, and ultimately achieve that fulfillment, only to find that we're not entirely satisfied. And meanwhile, along the way, multiple other desires have cropped up in such a way that the process can become endless. And so when we hear that all of our desires must be fulfilled, one of the horrifying realizations is that this could take a really, really, really long time to manifest, to go all the way through with the process, especially given that they keep on multiplying sideways, like the sorcerer's apprentice and his mops and buckets and water. And so ultimately we have to come to the place where we're able and willing to kind of cut that off and change the trajectory. But I would say on balance, one of the kind of comforting thoughts, and this is something that Yogananda shared in his writings. He said, in God, your wildest dreams will be fulfilled. Your wildest dreams will materialize or manifest. They may not be material, so they may not materialize, but if you have a dream for beauty or a dream of some subtle fulfillment, that too must manifest in some way that is meaningful to you. And that's very very sweet and kind of comforting to think of. And I think what we ultimately have to realize and ultimately have to achieve in ourselves is the willingness to let God's timing be the operative factor in all this. Because if we operate on our own schedule and say, no, but I want it now, I want the ice cream cone now, well, we can just get into all kinds of trouble, and we can create all kinds of disturbance and distraction in ourselves. And if we let God's time, if we just keep putting out the energy, then these things will come to us in their own time. In the Bible, Christ says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things, meaning all these other desires, will be added unto you." Well, in other words, we just have to get the priority right. We get the priority right and let God's timing be whatever it's going to be, which can often be a little delayed, but not always. Often we will find in a case of urgent need that God's timing is quite precise and quite speedy when the urgency is there, when the need is there. So know that indeed your wildest dreams, whatever they may be, must ultimately be fulfilled. But ultimately they will be fulfilled in God. There's a lovely line or series of lines from the second verse of Swami Kriyananda's song, "Blessed the Life." It begins by saying, "Blessed the heart open to his love," open to God's love meaning. "Blessed the light that shines from above, all the wealth for which men ever schemed, all the beauty ever dreamed, all the gains for which men sigh and moan, will be harvested in God alone. Blessed, blessed the heart open to his love." God bless you. May your heart always be open to his love. Om.